The story you're about to hear is fiction, not a true story.
Hi, my name is Cody. This is the story of how my babysitter saved me. My parents went to a dinner party for my mom's work and left us with our babysitter Trina. She was 21 at the time, so she was pretty laid back and basically let us get away with whatever we wanted to do. That's why my brother and I treated her nice and didn't annoy her, and would try not to bother her when she's doing something. But she would usually hang out with us, like play video games with us, watch movies, make prank phone calls to her friends. She was awesome. My brother and I were in my room playing Would You Rather and goofing around, and Trina was in the kitchen ordering pizza on the phone. When she got off the phone with them, she yelled up to us.
The pizza will be here in 30 minutes.
Then she went to the couch in the living room to text on her phone. About 30 minutes later, my brother and I were playing on the PlayStation when we heard the front door close from downstairs. My brother and I jumped up and ran down the stairs to get our pizza, but Trina was sleeping on the couch. My brother and I were a bit confused. We heard the front door closed.
Maybe we just thought we'd heard it.
Him and I looked at each other and just shrugged it off. But I had a weird feeling that something was off. My brother suggested that we go back and play the game, but before he could finish, we heard a noise. It sounded like one of the bedroom doors upstairs closed. We looked at each other and then ran to Trina to tell her someone was in the house. At first she thought we were messing with her, but then a bang sound came from upstairs. She grabbed her phone and led us to the downstairs basement and locked the door. Then we got in a corner of the basement and she called the police. While she was on the phone, my brother started panicking. He forgot his asthma inhaler upstairs. Trina knew my brother needed his inhaler. His asthma attacks can happen unexpectedly. So she told me and him to stay by the door and lock it when she leaves to get the inhaler, and she knock 3 times to open to let her back in. So we let her out and she booked it through the hallway. My brother was trying to put on a brave face, but he felt bad for leaving his inhaler upstairs and Trina having to risk her life to go get it. I told him that everything is going to be fine. Trina found his inhaler in the living room, but when she turned around to head back to us, that's when she saw the intruder. She asked him to please leave, and he looked at her with a very strange stare.
"Where's my boy?"
He asked her in a very deep voice.
I think you have the wrong house, sir.
She said, trying not to panic. My brother and I were debating on going up to check and see if she was okay. She was upstairs for 10 minutes. We finally decided to check. We reached for the door handle, then all of a sudden we hear Trina scream. We ran to find her and saw her in the living room, being held by her hair by a man.
"Hello, boys. Cody. Remember me? I'm your dad."
Trina looked at me with her eyes, asking me if I knew this man. I shook my head no.
"Buddy, I came here to get you. I thought you could come live with me from now on. We'll have the best time."
I asked him if I went with him, would he leave Trina and my brother alone? He then let go of Trina's hair and said,
"Of course. I won't hurt them."
So I looked at my brother, then looked back at him, and said, "Okay, I'll go."
"Great,"
he said in a deep but possibly happy voice. He pushed Trina to the ground and grabbed my hand, and we ran out the door to this weird 70s-style van. Then we drove off. But before we got out of the driveway, Trina ran out and started chasing us. She ran all the way to the edge of the road. She couldn't stop us in time, but she managed to get the license plate number off the van. She was so scared and mad she let out a scream of anger. Then she started crying, worrying about me. She then saw a police car finally pulling up the driveway. She ran to the officer and told him everything that happened. While Trina was talking to one police officer, another officer was trying to comfort my brother. To this day, he thinks it's his fault everything happened. All because he forgot his inhaler. But I always tell him it wasn't your fault. We drove for what felt like hours but was only 30 minutes. We finally stopped and he gets in the back.
"You probably have questions, right?"
I just looked at him and just shook my head yes. Then he started telling me that my mom and him were high school sweethearts, and that they were going to get married after high school, but then my mom left him after graduation to be with another guy, and that other guy was the guy my mom was with now.
"But on prom night, your mom and I, we made you."
Even though I was 10, I wasn't stupid, I knew what that meant. I started feeling more uncomfortable. This weirdo was saying he was my dad. I started to believe him at first. I mean, both my mom and dad have blonde hair and I have dark hair. But then I remembered my grandmother has dark hair too. So I get my hair from her. He kept going on and on about my mom hurting him in high school and saying that he at least deserved to have me. But I figured he was full of it. I was scared I was never going to get back home. Then a miracle sound was heard. A knock on the door. Followed by a man saying, "Police! We have you surrounded!" There were 2 police cars there that were for me and the crazy guy. The one I got in took me home and the other took the crazy man to jail. When I got home, Trina and my brother both gave me a hug, and then my parents pulled into the driveway. My mom came out and ran to me and gave me a hug. Then both my mom and dad took me inside to have a talk. They told me everything. Turns out the crazy guy is actually my father after all. But my mom and him were never a couple. She only had 1 date with him. He was nice at first, but then started to act really weird after they did stuff. So my mom basically ignored him. But then found out 3 weeks later that she was going to have me. I was shocked, but glad they told me. But my mom said that they were never going to tell me because they found out he was a serial killer. So yeah, that's my report on the most interesting thing that's ever happened to me.